I'm Jonathan, and I'm up early on a Saturday morning because I want to debunk a myth. The myth is that homemade chicken stock is difficult to make, and that's not true at all. In fact, it's very easy, just a little time consuming, and that time is really just spent watching it simmer on a stove. And you don't even have to watch the whole time. It's ridiculous. Plus, homemade chicken stock is miles better than the stuff that you can buy at the store. So we're going to get started. It's really simple, the ingredients are super cheap, and you probably already have most of them on hand. The first thing you're going to need for this recipe is the biggest pot that you've got. This is mine. It's about a 1 gallon stock pot because we're probably going to be making about a gallon of stock today. And the first thing that goes in are the chicken bones. Now I've got about 3 chickens worth, but from the looks of it, I'm probably only going to be using 2 today, which is fine because then I have some ready for the next time I make chicken stock. And through the magic of editing, my chicken bones have magically appeared. Ain't it great? Now some of my bones are still a little frozen, but that's okay because we're not going to be eating the bones or anything like that. We don't have to worry about them being fully defrosted. Now let's go ahead and get our vegetables ready. What you're going to need is some onions, some celery, and some carrots. So for the onions, I'm going to cut them in half and then cut those pieces into large pieces. For the carrots, I'm probably just going to chop off the tops and cut them into big pieces. And the celery, make sure it's really clean, and then I'm just going to chop that into large pieces as well. You're also going to need some fresh thyme, some black peppercorns, and some garlic would be pretty nice too. Going to go ahead and prep the vegetables now. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to turn the heat on my pot already with my chicken bones in it, just so maybe I can cook them a little bit, maybe get a little bit of browning, because that would be pretty nice. With my chicken hissing away and all my vegetables prepped, it's time to dump them in. Now in reality, I didn't really need to take the skins off of the garlic or the onions because all of it's going to get filtered out anyway. But I like to save the step later on and go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to dump in right now. After the vegetables go in, I'm going to add some black peppercorns. And some of that fresh thyme. You don't have to do anything with it because, again, it's getting filtered out. So I've got 2 or 3 little bundles here, little branches, and now I'm going to add water. I'm almost positive that I can get a gallon of water in here, which is 4 quarts for those of you who aren't aware. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in and turn the heat up to high. Now with my second quart of water going in, I want to mention that if you have filtered water, I really recommend using that. Because the stock is really based on the water that you use and the ingredients, it's important to use the best ingredients you've got and the best water. So I'm using the filtered water from my refrigerator. It takes a lot longer to fill up, but it's worth it because it tastes a lot better than my tap water, especially here in Florida. So I'm going to go ahead and get my other 2 quarts in there, leave my heat on high, and then we're going to bring this to almost a boil. The goal of this whole process is to simmer the ingredients in the pot for about 6 hours. So this is going to take a while for my pot to warm up because I know it, but you won't know that because I'm going to edit it all out. Ha! Magic of the internet. So I'm going to fill it up again, and I'll meet you back here when I've reached a simmer and or a boil. See you then. Through the magic of editing, my stock is now boiling, and it's been about 40 minutes of real time. So, to be honest, the stock is boiling. I don't want it boiling. There are large bubbles forming here at the surface. I've turned my heat down to medium. It was at high because I needed to bring it up to heat. You don't want it to boil because you're going to start to break up the chicken bones and stuff, and it's going to make your stock really cloudy and kind of gritty. So you don't want to do that. But what you do want is, once you adjust your heat and you got it down to where it's going to be a simmer, you want to have a spoon standing by, and I've also got a bowl of water over here off to the side that you can't see. There's all this foam up on top, and it's not bad, it's just not good. So every once in a while, you'll want to come in with your spoon and kind of just scoop off the foam, and I have the bowl off to the side to get it out of the spoon easily. You don't really have to worry about stirring either, because I mean really, when you're simmering for 6 hours, it's all going to get mixed in there anyway. So just skim the scum, as they say. That's actually what they say. And don't be worried if you don't get all of it, or if you get some of the actual stock with it, that's okay. I will also note that while I said I was going to be making a gallon, I ended up adding a lot more than just a gallon of water. It didn't come all the way up. As you can see, I am at the brim. Let me push that down. I am at the brim of my pot. That's because a lot of water is going to evaporate throughout the cooking process. Now, I'll come back again a little bit later when the water has evaporated to show you, but you can just add fresh water on top of it to kind of keep it full. Keep in mind that this will dilute your flavor a little bit. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just going to be a little weaker, but there's really nothing you can do to prevent against that. So I'm just going to move everything around in here, make sure we're good. My thyme sitting on top there. Alright, so a lot of the scum is gone, not all of it, it's okay. And I'll probably come back in another half hour, maybe 40 minutes or so, and check it and skim it again and make sure that I've got just a light bubbling at the top. Not like right now, it's actually going a little bit too hard. But I turned my heat down like I said, and it should be good to go for quite some time. Well, I'm now approaching about 3 hours. Everything's looking good. My house smells amazing. You can probably tell I've lost about a ½ an inch of water, or now technically stock, due to evaporation. I've skimmed a couple of times, but I'm going to take this opportunity to add a little bit more water, just to kind of fill it up a little bit more, and since I have another 3 hours to go basically. So that took about 2 cups. Of course, based on your pot and your heat level and everything, it could be different, but I just wanted to get that going so that I have a full gallon when we're done. Okay, my stock is now done. It's been going for just about 7 hours, and the whole house smells like chicken stock. It smells great in here. It doesn't look like very much right now, but we've still got to strain it. So, we need to turn the heat off first, obviously. I like to do my straining in 2 stages. The first stage, just through a colander to get all the big pieces out, and the second stage through a cheesecloth to get the finer grit out so we have a nice, beautiful, clear stock. So let's go over to the sink, and I'm going to do the first strain. Now, I'm sure I don't need to mention this, but this stock is very hot. Please be careful. It's anywhere between 150 and 200 degrees, and that will leave a mark. So very carefully, I'm going to take my stock here and pour it. Before I do that, I've got a colander here inside of a bowl. I happen to know this bowl is it holds 7.5 quarts, which is darn near 2 gallons, so I know that it'll fit all of my stock here just fine. And I'm doing this in the sink, so if anything spills out, it'll be a lot easier to clean up. So, enough talking, let's get to work. Probably going to splatter a lot, especially as the solids make their way in. Just be very careful and go as slow as you need to so everything gets caught and you don't hurt yourself. As you can see, all of these solids here, they've done what they're supposed to do. I've got pretty good strained stock down in the bowl. You can shake this out. You can really press the solids out if you really, really want to, if you're feeling adventurous. Just be really careful, but there is still a decent amount of liquid trapped inside the solids that you can squeeze out. So just shake to make sure you get everything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash out the stock pot that I actually made the stock in, and then I'm going to line this same colander with cheesecloth, and then I'm going to dump it back into the stock pot. Okay, now with the same colander, the layer of cheesecloth in there, I've got it on top of the stock pot that I've cleaned out. And I've attached these clips here because as we start pouring in the hot liquid, the cheesecloth has a tendency to want to cave in on itself, and this will help keep everything in its place. Now, the bowl I used to strain the stock in originally, stainless steel, it's very hot. So be mindful of that when you do this. I'm using a towel here to simply carry the bowl, and just like before, I'm going to very carefully pour this in. Okay, now my stock is fully strained and it's ready to go, right? Well, for one, I do see a little bits and pieces here of some thyme that's still in there. That's okay, I can fish those out later. The bigger concern is that we have a gallon of 200-degree liquid, and this is a danger. We need to get this cold as soon as possible. So, this is why I like to use the sink. I'm going to take out the pot, put the stopper in, put down a layer of ice, put the pan back on, fill in ice around, and then some water to kind of bring it up, some cold water to bring it up to level. And that will help bring this mixture down to an appropriate temperature very, very quickly. And Abraca bacon. All my ice is here with water filling up almost all the way to the top of the pan. Don't worry if your ice is melting around the outside, that's perfectly okay. And if you were feeling particularly ambitious and you had some ice packs laying around, you could put them in a Ziploc bag, make sure that it's completely sealed, and then dump that right in the middle. And that will help to cool it from the inside out. Again, the quicker you get this done, the better chance you have at not catching some bacteria in there and it being kind of gross. You've spent all this time, 7 hours in my case, making this stock. The least you can do is take the time to make sure that it's cooled down properly so you can actually get to enjoy this and not have to throw it all out because of bacteria and contamination. So, this will be okay here for a while. Actually, I'll probably let it sit for at least another half hour, come back and check it. But technically this is safe here for about 2 hours. If you want to leave it that long, I recommend putting a lid on it. But like I said, I'm going to clean up a little bit around here and come back in about a half hour. Okay, oddly enough, this is where today's episode ends. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stock pot and I'm going to put it in my fridge, and then tomorrow I'm going to come back and check it. Now what's going to happen is the top layer is going to be fat. It's going to be the chicken fat. You can skim that off, which I highly recommend doing. You can toss it or keep it. If you keep it, you can use it to saute vegetables or use for other purposes like you would use butter. It tastes great. It tastes like chicken stock. After it's been in the fridge all night and all day tomorrow when I come home from work, I'm going to take it out and then I'm going to portion it into Ziploc bags. And then what you want to do, I highly recommend doing the same for one, but what you want to do is mark on the bag how much is in there. So what I like to do is have a couple of bags that are a quart, a couple of bags that are maybe just a cup or two, so that way if I'm just making a sauce, I don't need to bust out a whole quart. I can just take out one of the 1-cuppers or 2-cuppers for the sauce, but then if I'm making a soup, I can take out the whole quart. So again, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you learned that making stock isn't nearly as difficult as people make it out to be. Just a little tedious, and you need to stay home for the day, to make sure that nothing bad happens on your stove. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Jonathan. This has been Tasty Techniques, and I hope to see you next week.